Okay, welcome. We're going to get right into the stock market charts, technical analysis. So on this channel, if you're new, typically I go through the general indices, give my read on the market, where I think the market is heading, and then I'll go through individual stock trade ideas that I'm watching or that I pointed out in the past, and then we will wrap up. So leave me a thumbs up if you guys find some value, and if you're interested in learning how to use technical analysis to find killer trade ideas and learn how to actually trade the charts. Again, this is swing trading, so it's not day trading, it's swing trading and trend trading. Take my course. Link is in the description below. Okay, so we'll start out here with the SPY. A couple things on SPY. We start out, on the bigger picture, we've got a broken trend, all right? So there's your weekly chart going all the way back to 2009. And this is just bigger picture stuff. So this is not going to give you an objective entry potentially, but you've got a broken trend. You can see we held support through this trend all these years, broke it in 2018, backtest in 2019, and zooming in, this is where we're at right now. So the blue line is that trend. We've recovered it, and we've still recovered it. So until you see a weekly break back below this blue trend line, that would be a false breakout. But until we see that, it's we still have a recovery of that broken support. All right. Now, I think we're going to get it. I do think in general we are going to get a breakdown and a false breakout. But until we see it, nothing to do there. Now, on the daily chart, we've been making this trend line right here. Just this small trend line here on the daily. Until I see a break of that trend line, this obviously can continue to move higher. If you go to the hourly, you can see we're just continuing to kind of work our way higher on that trend. The daily, though, when you look at the daily, we've got negative divergence. I've got it kind of circled right there, but basically there it is right there on the PPO, and here it is on the RSI. If you can't use PPO, use MACD, the moving average convergence divergence. You can use that. But we have negative divergence, and look at the RSI starting to turn down right there. So we have confirmed negative divergence on the RSI. See how we're trending down in the momentum, and yet price continues to kind of grind higher. So we're looking for that sell signal, that breakdown. Looking at the futures, the SPY futures, you can also see here on the hourly chart, we're just continuing to walk up the trend line. So until you get a breakdown in the futures, no sell signal. Same with the SPY. On tech, I've got this lower trend line here on the hourly that we've just been kind of walking up higher. And until we get a break of that trend, I still think that there's just no sell signal that I see on tech. So right now that level's sitting at about 336, we'll call it. Until we get a impulsive break of that, I just don't see a trade here yet. Looking at the daily on tech, triple Qs, negative divergence. So this price action that we're making right here, that's all-time highs, is a divergent high, meaning we have a higher high in price, and yet if you look at the momentum, lower highs in the momentum. So look at the RSI, see how we're making kind of trending down, making lower highs in momentum than the previous highs. That's a downtrend in momentum, and yet price is making higher price. So that's negative divergence. And when you get negative divergence, it just basically means be on the lookout for a sell signal. It doesn't mean to short just right when you get negative divergence. Doesn't mean to sell or short. Just means be on the lookout for a sell signal. It could come in the future. So that's what we're looking for now, is some sort of a breakdown of trendline support. And I've got the support really right about there. So it's about that 336 area. Looking for that to break. Small caps, really just range bound, continuing to be range bound. Resistance 225. Support is about 220.50. And again, we just continue to chop within that range. So until you see a break one way or the other, for me, it's just kind of, sit on your hands and not really do anything on this one. So just looking for a break of one of those levels, and I just don't see it. Now, we do have negative divergence right there. I've got it circled. That's your divergent high. So I think it's likely we're going to break to the downside and probably come in. Here's the trend line coming off the March 2020 lows. This is the uptrend that IWM's been in, and that has not been broken. So if we break to the downside, that 220, 220.50, 220, somewhere right in there, we break, I think we're going to run down to that trend line. All right, that would be the objective area if you're short to cover, and then ultimately you wait for a break of that trend line. If you get a break of that trend line, then we're likely heading a little bit lower. And I've got some support levels right here. This one's sitting at 20. It's about 205, and then this one right here is about 193. All right. Gold here, you can see gold ran up today and tagged that 1790 level of resistance, and sure enough, that held true. You can see right there, we just ran up, hit it, and so far we're selling off of that level. So we're probably going to have to battle with this level for a little while. I think it's probably likely we're going to come down to this 1750 area, hit that, maybe bounce back up. Eventually, it looks like we're going to break to the upside, but we still don't have that break. That 1790 level, if you go all the way back, that comes all the way back from the last bull market. That was your resistance line here back in 2011 through 2012. Hit it 3 times and then rejected. And as you zoom in, you can see that's the level when we had a breakout move to the upside, came back down, hit it as support, bounced, finally broke, and so now you can see we're trying to battle with that level from below. One thing is, if you look at the dollar, gold is basically priced in dollars, so it usually moves kind of inverse to what the dollar's doing, and you can see the dollar's selling off today. Pretty good sell-off too. More than 0.6%. That's a good size move in the dollar, and yet gold is down a little bit too. So one of these is wrong. I suspect gold is going to rally, continue to rally, and break that 1790 level. That's what I'm positioned for, and the dollar is continuing to sell off. So keep an eye on that. Looks like we're coming into some support right here about 91. So, yeah, I'm just watching for where the dollar goes. The dollar has been trending up. I mean, you can see it's been making higher lows, and, that trend hasn't been broken yet. So that 91, a break of that would be something to watch for. If we break that, we're likely going to go down to the lows and probably make new lows. Take a look at Roku. You can see here on this trend line on the daily chart, there's a nice clean uptrend right there on Roku. We started to put in negative divergence really up here. This was negative divergence, and we then look for a break of trend. So there's a break. There's your sell signal right there. Came back in for a back test. They recovered that trend line, but it wasn't that impulsive. Wasn't able to really lift off of that trend line. It just continued to trade along that trend line. Today we gapped down and we're selling off. So to me, that looks like a back test and a rejection of resistance, and we're likely going to go lower. Targets for this one, obviously you got the near-term lows right here, so that will likely be a target to watch, which is right about here. We'll say it's right there at 29. We'll say 300. Below that we've got 237, and below that we've got 201.50. So I'm not so sure if we'll get all the way down there, but potentially down to this 237 area, but we'll watch this 300 for the nearest level of support. So here's DraftKings. You can see today, kind of gapping down and not impulsively selling off, but it is still kind of a break of this support. I have the line drawn at 57.90. However, you can see we've kind of sliced through it many times, so it's not a clean support line. This big impulsive breakdown here really closed out at that level and held at about 57.90. And so, we are breaking that. And from my perspective, it looks like we're heading down to this trend line down here at about $50. You can see that's a more major trend line. You held that support here, here, and here. So we have three tests of that support line, and it does look like we're heading down to that level. And we did have negative divergence that's been building for quite a while. So again, I am looking at this coming down, selling off. Continues to look good to the downside. And I'm continuing to watch lumber. It just, every single day, the lumber futures are up about 2 to 3%. This thing's gone parabolic. You can see here that lumber prices are just pretty much going straight up. So we're looking for this to break. we're looking for the futures to break. And likely when they break, we're going to trade. We'll be able to find a good short on lumber. Also, one way that I'm playing this right now is the home builders. So looking at Lennar, this one's, continuing to kind of sell off. Hasn't really dropped yet, but on Lennar, you've got negative divergence right here on the PPO and on the RSI. And we have a bearish rising wedge pattern right there. And if you look at the hourly chart, it shows it a little cleaner. There's your bearish rising wedge. We broke trend, back test, and we're just kind of resolving, consolidating, not moving up, not moving down. So looking for continuation to the downside, looking for that this support shelf to kind of break and for us to start to move down towards 95. That's kind of my first level of support. And we've got a level down here at 93 as well. So just waiting for that to break, and I think we're going to get that. Looking at the XHB, which is the Home Builders ETF, this has not broke yet. You can see here's your uptrend line on the hourly chart, and we have not broke trend yet. So looking at the daily, it just continues to move higher, looking for a break of trend. We do have negative divergence on the RSI. We do not really have it here on the PPO, so mixed signals on that one. And I know Bitcoin had a big sell-off yesterday, I believe. So we'll wrap up the video with Bitcoin. You can see BTC here. We've got this uptrend line right here in BTC. We have negative divergence. It's big negative divergence. It's been building for a while. And we're just starting to break trend right here today. It looks like they're trying to hold that trend. So again, you want to see that daily close. And the farther down and the more impulsive it is, the better. If you don't get that daily close below this trend line on the daily chart, then you can't consider that a sell signal. So looking at the hourly, you can see it's breaking and the buyers are there trying to bid it back up. They haven't successfully been able to recover that trend yet. So look for how this trades, to close out the day. Does it sell off into the close, or does it, do they bid it back up? A daily close below that trend, and I would say we're likely heading down to what looks to be about 44,700 as the next level of support. So we'll watch those. Ways to trade it is, you can look at like Riot or MicroStrategy, or potentially. If we break this trend today, I'll start covering these and maybe start shorting some of these Bitcoin proxies, and I'll cover those in the future videos. So stay tuned for that. But we got to wait to see how this closes out the day. That's really all I got. If I didn't point out anything that I've talked about in the past, then likely that means there's no technical change. So there's nothing to really talk about on those. So continuing to see, the trades that I'm in are continuing to work, and I'm just continuing to look for other trade ideas. So leave a comment below if you want me to look at anything, or if you see a good trade setup, let me know. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.